Namaskar. Dear viewers, welcome to the series of lectures on tourism in Southeast Asia. This topic has been divided into two parts. In this part 1, we are discussing about some of the basic information and the factors that support the tourism growth in the Southeast Asian region. For your convenience, the episode is divided into 5 subtopics as follows. First, Introduction to Southeast Asian countries, Asian Declaration and Tourism in Southeast Asia, Geographical features, Climate and Culture. Southeast Asian countries. Introduction. Southeast Asia is becoming one of the leading travelling hotspots of the world, and it is evident by seeing to the growth rate of tourism development in this region. Southeast Asian countries are attracting tourists from recognized tourism markets in the world for its beautiful beaches, coral islands, dense forests which are home for rich biodiversity, delicious cuisine, fascinating multi-ethnicity culture and welcoming people. The region has something to offer for every segment of tourist. The countries like Thailand, Malaysia and Singapore share the major portion of tourist traffic into the region. Thailand is known as best destination for backpackers, and the capital city Bangkok is in the heart of this growing tourism destination, is one of the fastest growing cities in the world. Highlights of the capital city Bangkok include the glittering temple of Wat Arun, the beauty of the Grand Palace and the famous floating and open-air markets. There is a modern city-state Singapore. Business tourism is a key tourism activity along with leisure tourism activities in this modern city-state. Singapore's best preserved man-made attractions including artificial rainforest, Jurong Bird Park and Singapore Zoo are worth visiting. Malaysia is another popular tourist country from the Southeast Asian region. It has stunning water bodies, beautiful beaches and islands, natural cave chambers and rich vegetation due to its close proximity to equatorial line. Southeast Asia has other facet of tourism, that is more relaxed atmosphere and less explored or unexplored part of the region includes the countries like Cambodia, Vietnam, the Philippines and Indonesia. These countries are home for some of the world's best tourist spots like islands, beaches, temples and rich culture. Bali and thousands of beautiful islands in Indonesia, Angkor Wat Temple in Cambodia, golden pagodas of Laos and natural beauty, white and sandy beaches in Philippines make this part of Southeast Asia a unique destination in the world. Without doubt, with all this to offer for visitors, Southeast Asia has become the most popular and leading tourism destination. Now moving on to Asian countries and tourism. Now we are going to know about ASEAN. What is ASEAN? Who are the member countries of ASEAN? The Association of Southeast Asian Nations is a political and economic organization of 10 Southeast Asian countries. It was formed on 8 August 1967 by Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore and Thailand. ASEAN started with the purpose of regional cooperation among the member nations and through which regional development can be achieved. Since then, membership has expanded to Brunei, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, that is Burma and Vietnam. Its aims include accelerating economic growth, social progress and socio-cultural evolution among its members, protection of regional peace and stability, and opportunities for member countries to resolve differences peacefully. It has 10 member countries. The 11th nation in the region, East Timor, is not a member of ASEAN as of now. Tourism has become the major source of revenue and employment generation for several Southeast Asian countries. Countries with fewer resources and other economic activities are highly dependent on tourism for strengthening their economy. Countries in Southeast Asian region experienced rapid economic growth recently due to the development in tourism and other industrial developments. Purpose. As set out in the ASEAN Declaration, the aims and purposes of ASEAN are to accelerate economic growth, social progress and cultural development in the region, to promote regional peace and stability, to promote collaboration and mutual assistance on matters of common interest, to provide assistance to each other in the form of training and research facilities, to collaborate for the better utilization of agriculture and industry to raise the living standards of the people, to promote Southeast Asian studies, to maintain close beneficial cooperation with existing international organizations with similar aims and purposes. The contribution of Association for Tourism Development. With the introduction of visa-free travel between Asian member countries, intra-Asian travel has rapidly increased. It is further estimated that this will increase more in the years to come. In 2010, 47% or 34 million tourists out of 73 million tourists in Asian member states were from other Asian countries. In 1986, Asian Promotional Chapters for Tourism, that is APCT, were established in Hong Kong, West Germany, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, Japan and North America for the purpose of tourist promotion. Tourism has been one of the key growth sectors in Asian countries. The wide array of tourist attractions across the region attracted 81 million tourists to Southeast Asia in 2011, up by 30% growth compared to 62 million tourists in 2007. As of 2012, tourism was estimated to account for 4.6% of Asian GDP, that is 10.9%, when taking into account of all indirect contributions. It directly employed 9.3 million people or 3.2% of total employment and indirectly supported some 25 million jobs in the region. Geographical features. Countries comes under Southeast Asian region: Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, Indonesia, the Philippines and East Timor. Southeast Asia covers a total land area of 4.4 million square kilometers, 3% of the total land area of the earth. Asian territorial waters cover an area about 3 times larger than its total land area. The member countries have a combined population of approximately 625 million people, 8.8% of the world's population. In 2015, the organization's combined nominal GDP had grown to more than $2.6 trillion. If Asian countries were taken as a single entity, it would rank as the 7th largest economy in the world, behind the United States, China, Japan, Germany, France and the United Kingdom. Southeast Asia consists of 11 countries that reach from eastern India to China, and these countries are generally divided into 2 zones. Those are mainland zone and island zone. The mainland zone includes countries like Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam, is actually an extension of the Asian continent. Islamism is the major religion found in all mainland countries, but the most significant populations are in southern Thailand and western Myanmar, that is Arakan. Island zone or maritime Southeast Asia includes Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, the Philippines, Brunei and the newly formed nation of East Timor, formerly part of Indonesia. Islam is the state religion in Malaysia and Brunei. Although 85% of Indonesia's population are Muslims, a larger number than any other country in the world, Islam is not the official state religion. Muslims are a minority in Singapore and the southern Philippines. Now coming to the geography, environment and cultural zones. Geographical location and features of any region or country play an important role in its tourism. Countries with some unique geographical features like water bodies, mountain ranges, rivers, forests, highlands and plains offer a wide range of tourism opportunities. The whole Southeast Asian region lies on and close to the equatorial zone, and so there are similarities in climate as well as plant and animal life throughout the region. Temperatures are generally warm, although it is cooler in highland or high altitude areas. Many sea and forest areas are unique to the region and were therefore much desired by international traders in early times. For example, several small islands in eastern Indonesia were once the world's only source of cloves, nutmeg and maize. The entire region is affected by the monsoon winds, which blow regularly from the northwest and then reverse to blow from the southeast. These wind systems bring fairly predictable rainy seasons, and before steamships were invented, these wind systems also enable traders from outside the region to arrive and leave at regular intervals. Because of this reliable wind pattern, Southeast Asia became a meeting place for trade between India and China, the two great markets of early Asia. There are some differences in the physical environment of mainland and island Southeast Asia. The first feature of mainland geography is the long rivers, those begin in the highlands separating Southeast Asia from China and Northeast India. A second feature is the extensive lowland plains separated by forested hills and mountain regions. These fertile plains are highly suited to rice-growing ethnic groups such as the Thais, the Burmese and the Vietnamese, who developed settled cultures that provided the basis for modern states. The highlands were home for tribal groups who displayed their identity through distinctive styles in clothing, jewelry and hairstyles. A third feature of mainland Southeast Asia is the long coastline, home for a number of beautiful beaches and fishing activity. Despite a strong agrarian base, the communities that developed in these regions were also part of the maritime trading network that linked Southeast Asia to India and to China. The islands of maritime Southeast Asia can range from the very large, for instance Borneo, Sumatra, Java and Luzon, to very small islets on the map. That is, Indonesia and archipelago is said to comprise 17,000 small and big islands. Because the interior of these islands were dense forests and frequently dissected by highlands, land travel was never easy. Southeast Asians found it easier to move by waterways or by boats between different areas. The oceans that connected coasts and neighboring islands created smaller zones where people shared similar languages and were exposed to the same religious and cultural influences. The modern border created by colonial powers, for instance between Malaysia and Indonesia, does not reflect logical cultural divisions. A second feature of maritime Southeast Asia is the seas themselves. Apart from a few deep underwater trenches, the oceans are shallow, which means they are rather warm and not very saline. This is an ideal environment for fish, coral, seaweeds and other products. Though the seas in some areas are rough, the region as a whole, except for the Philippines, is generally free of hurricanes and typhoons. However, There are many active volcanoes and the island world is very vulnerable to earthquake activity. Now next, coming to the climate. The climate in Southeast Asia is mainly tropical, hot and humid throughout the year. Places receive abundant sunshine as well as good rainfall. Northern Vietnam and the Myanmar Himalayas are the only regions in Southeast Asia that features a subtropical climate which has a cold winter with snow covered for several months in year. The climate in Southeast Asia is mainly tropical, hot and humid. The majority of Southeast Asia has a wet and dry season caused by seasonal shift in winds or monsoon. The tropical rain belt causes additional rainfall during the monsoon season. The rainforest in Southeast Asia is the second largest on earth, with the Amazon being the largest. An exception to this type of climate and vegetation is the mountain areas in the northern region, where high altitudes lead to milder temperatures and drier landscape. Temperatures. Regional temperatures at or near sea level remain fairly constant throughout the year, although monthly averages tend to vary more with increasing latitude. Annual average temperatures are close to 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 27 degrees Celsius. Increasing elevation acts to decrease average temperatures, and such locations as the Cameron Highlands in peninsular Malaysia and Baguio in the Philippines have become popular tourist destinations in part because of their relatively cooler climates. Proximity of countries to the sea also tends to have moderate temperatures. Precipitation. Much of Southeast Asia receives more than 60 inches, that is 1500 millimeters of rainfall annually, and many areas commonly receive double and even triple that amount. The rainfall pattern is distinctly affected by two prevailing air currents, that is the northeast or dry monsoon and the southwest or wet monsoon. The northeast monsoon occurs roughly from November to March and brings relatively dry, cool air and little precipitation to the mainland. As the southwestward flowing air passes over the warmer sea, it gradually warms and gathers moisture. Precipitation is especially heavy where the air stream is forced to rise over mountains or encounters a landmass. The east coast of peninsular Malaysia, the Philippines and parts of eastern Indonesia receive the heaviest rains during the period. The southwest monsoon prevails from May to September, when the air current reverses and the dominant flow is to the northeast. The mainland receives the bulk of its rainfall during this period. Over much of the southern Malay Peninsula and insular Southeast Asia, there is little or no prolonged dry season. This is especially marked in much of the equatorial region and along the east coast of the Philippines. Coming to the culture. The culture in Southeast Asia is very diverse and multicultural. The Southeast Asia has influence of two important cultural patterns. The mainland Southeast Asia has mix of Indian culture can be found in Burma, Cambodia, Laos, Western Malaysia and Thailand, whereas Chinese culture can be seen in Singapore and Vietnam. While in Indonesia, Eastern Malaysia and the Philippines, the culture is a mix of indigenous Austronesian, is a mix of Indian, Islamic, Western and Chinese cultures. Also, Brunei shows a strong influence from Arabia. Singapore and Vietnam show more Chinese influence in that Singapore, although being geographically a Southeast Asian nation, is home to a large majority of migrated Chinese, and Vietnam was in China's sphere of influence for much of its history. Indian influence in Singapore is only evident through the Tamil migrants. Singapore has good number of Tamil-speaking population migrated and settled, which influenced culture and cuisine of Singapore to some extent. Rice, paddy agriculture has existed in Southeast Asia for thousands of years, ranging across the sub-region. Some dramatic examples of these rice paddies populate the Banoi rice terraces in the mountains of Luzon in the Philippines. The local tribes are good in cultivating these paddies. The rice paddies are well suited to the monsoon climate of the region. Stilt houses can be found all over Southeast Asia, from Thailand and Laos to Borneo to Luzon in the Philippines. The region has diverse metalworking, especially in Indonesia. This includes weaponry such as the distinctive kris and musical instruments such as the gamelan. Influences. The region's chief cultural influences have been from some combination of Islam, India and China. Diverse cultural influence is pronounced in the Philippines, derived particularly from the period of the Spanish and American rule, contact with Indian-influenced cultures and the Chinese trading era. The Filipinos are of indigenous Austronesian blood with varying admixtures of Indian, Arab, Spanish and Chinese. As a rule, the people who ate with their fingers were more likely influenced by the culture of India, for example, than the culture of China, where the people ate with chopsticks. Tea as a beverage can be found across the region. The fish sauces distinctive to the region tend to vary. Arts. The arts of Southeast Asia have affinity with the arts of other areas. Performing arts of Southeast Asia has influenced by several religions like Hinduism, Islamism and Buddhism. Dance in much of Southeast Asia includes movement of the hands as well as the feet to express the dancer's emotion and meaning of the story that is interpreted to audience through dance. Most of Southeast Asia introduced dance into their court. In particular, Cambodian royal ballet presented them in the early 7th century before the Khmer Empire, which was highly influenced by Indian Hinduism. Apsara dance, famous for strong hand and feet movement, is a great example of Hindu symbolic dance. Puppetry shows and shadow plays are other popular performing arts for entertaining audience in some of the Southeast Asian countries, a famous one being wayang kulit from Indonesia. The arts and literature in some of Southeast Asia is quite influenced by Hinduism, which was brought to them centuries ago. An example is the wayang kulit, shadow puppet and literature like the Ramayana. The wayang kulit show has been recognized by UNESCO as a masterpiece of oral and intangible heritage of humanity. It has been observed that Khmer and Indonesian classical arts were concerned with depicting the life of the gods, but to the Southeast Asian mind, the life of the gods was the life of the peoples themselves, joyous, earthy, yet divine. The Thai, coming late into Southeast Asia, brought with them some Chinese artistic traditions, but they soon shed them in favor of the Khmer and Mon traditions, and the only indications of the earlier contact with Chinese arts were in the style of their temples, especially the tapering roof and in use of lacquer ware for decorating the temples. Fairs and festivals. Fairs and festivals in Southeast Asia, being those are secular or non-secular, attract lot of gathering. Numerous festivals around the year in the country have influenced by rich culture of the region. Fairs and festivals in Southeast Asia exhibit the culture, traditions and religious practices of the local community. Festivals may be to celebrate birth anniversaries of god, goddesses, religious leaders, prophets, etc., or to worship the Mother Nature. Religious festivals are mainly from the followers are Islamism, Buddhism, Hinduism and Christianity. As discussed, the natural aspects like geographical features, climate and cultural aspects in the Southeast Asian countries play a vital role in creating several tourism resources in the region. In some of the episodes next to this, we will be discussing on major tourism resources in Southeast Asian region. Thank you.